All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for coming. My name is Nala. I'm the AFC Dallas Treasurer and the President of the CI for Dallas branch. Today we're gonna have three tracks for the Construction Institute. So our first one is right here. We have Jacob Elias. He has 10 plus years of experience in the construction industry. After graduating from UT Arlington in 2013, he started as a field engineer for the Horseshoe Project, focusing primarily on bridge construction, and later served as lead field engineer in the Southern Gateway Project, focusing on bridges and retaining walls. In 2021, he moved into a PMCM role at DFW International Airport, where he spent 2 years working on the airport's landside capital improvement program. And last March, he joined Huitt-Zollars as the owner's rep construction manager for the Silver Line EMF project, a CMGC project to deliver the maintenance yard needed for the trains operating on DART's new Silver Line alignment. So today he'll be speaking on alternative delivery and lessons learned from that. So let's give Jacob our attention.
All right, so Monday after the Super Bowl, right? Everyone's a little, maybe too much food, beer. All right, let's stand up right quick, okay? All right, everyone stand up. I want energy. I've been in your shoes before. Move around a little bit. Shimmy. Can I get a shimmy, Eddie? For those on the call, do the same, even though you might look silly. All right, thank you guys. Just because I want some energy to help me out, calm my nerves. So again, my name's Jacob. More focused my career in construction, and now I'm on the owner side. So feel like I've got some lessons learned, right? I think the main pool here is engineers, architects. So I've always been the one to kind of inherited all the issues that comes with that, right? So I just wanted to share some lessons learned, and particularly on alternative delivery. I did want to speak about Huitt-Zollars for a second. In case you don't know, you're going to find out. So we're a full service firm for engineering, architecture, survey. Oh man, hold on, figuring out some bugs. And then we're in the major industries. We're about 550 employees, so mid-sized firm, 10 states, 24 offices. More important to me is everyone's been great to work with. Everyone's helpful. I love working there. All right, so again, my background is very heavy into design build. I've been very lucky to be a part of 2 or 3 projects that are in the $500, $800 million range. So it was, as I made a change in the kind of, second quarter of my career, it was really hard to work on some of the smaller jobs. So I was a part of the 161 extension project in Grand Prairie as a field engineer and intern. And that then took me to the next step on the Horseshoe project. So that was a really fun job. And I focused mainly on bridges, then turned it into walls, bridge demo. So that was really exciting. And the Horseshoe job is the I-30, I-35 interchange in downtown Dallas. Also had the privilege to work with Huitt-Zollars at that time on the Margaret McDermott Bridge. So that was pretty fun. That second iconic bridge in downtown Dallas. And also the Calatrava, which is less fun maybe. And then second big design build was the Southern Gateway. Probably the more monumental part of that project was the deck park that's over by the Dallas Zoo. And it's really funny, when we were doing the Horseshoe job, we thought it was complicated. We thought the maintenance of traffic was just really something like just mind-boggling and really tough to deal with. When we went to the Southern Gateway, total game changer. We really understood what it was to maintain traffic while building something. And we had a lot of lessons learned, a lot of errors that we had to kind of push through. And then that was like my first little taste in one of my favorite words, stakeholders. So first job, we're kind of on the island only dealing with TxDOT. Second job, we got to deal with the Dallas Zoo, different property owners, businesses. And that was certainly challenging compared to the first job. And then we just kind of realized we were kind of babied on the first one. So and then I was able to go to the airport. I was lucky enough to work on another design build with the IP, right? So that was mainly working with the procurement of it and kind of taking, the design was basically done when we got there, but we were just there to get it actually on the street, which was a different challenge that I'll speak to later, and kind of getting the airport geared up for that. And then the more notable project that I worked on at the airport was the Terminal F tunnel, civil, I can't remember what they eventually called it, but there was a tunnel they're building from Terminal E to Terminal F, the new one that they're building. And that was a design bid build, but helped trying to push that through design. Then now, fortunate enough to work with DART on the Silver Line EMF project, and that's a CMGC. So again, a little more my comfort level of alternative delivery, and I'll explain that here in a little bit as well. So I did want to do a little DART plug here. So you know, DART is transit, and I know we're in Texas and it's not as popular, it's not as utilized, but I would urge everyone to try to use transit. I think in this North Texas region, we're gearing up towards just a major storm, right? We hate traffic here, and we look at LA and I realize, oh man, it could be so much worse. Well, we're headed there. And I think one way we can curb that and make it more enjoyable for everyone is to take transit. So, you know, again, selfish DART plug here, talk to your local representatives, your elected officials. We really do need transit here, and I think we have to get a comfort with it. And it's going to be really, really hard. It's not going to be easy being in Texas, right? But we're headed down a dark path here. And so it's kind of hard to stop the train from getting there if you don't stop it early. But I really encourage everyone, unless we're going to get used to 1.5 hours traffic, you know, going to work, you know, and maybe we'll be okay with it, maybe not, but it's going to suck if we ever get to that point. So yeah, so go for transit. So for the Silver Line, it's a 26-mile regional rail, go through 7 cities: Grapevine, Coppell, Dallas, Carrollton, Addison, Richardson, and Plano, and it connects to the airport. And they're looking to open at end of 2025, 2026, beginning of 2026. But the testing is going to start pretty soon, like in the next couple, 2-3 months. So that's going to be really exciting. Maybe a little frustrating because you're going to see a train and want to get on, and you're not going to be able to get on. But there's a lot of things that go into that: signal testing, train testing, getting that all programmed up. So you'll see that, you know, kind of as a harbinger of what's the things to come. And that's a really cool project. It's a really big project. It's just not the one I'm on. So the one I am actually able to work with Stacy Webeck as a general contractor, they've been really good partners, is the Silver Line EMF. So, right, just like a car, you need to maintain it. So we're building the maintenance facility and the wash building for the Silver Line trains. It's over by 75 and President George Bush, just off Jupiter, off George Bush. So if any of you guys want to come take a look, check it out, ask some questions, feel free. I'll be there. It's, again, with Stacy Webeck, our general contractor, $65 million contract, so kind of on the smaller side. We did get NTP last October, and substantial completion is pretty quick, right, Desmond? It's coming up in November of 2025, and then final completion in March of next year. So what you see on the screen here is basically the overview of what we're building. So on the left-hand side, it's like your maintenance area. So that first little small building is the wash. That middle large building is the EMF, where they'll do all the maintenance on the trains. It's a 3-story building. And then there's a gas station, if you will, a fuel canopy, and then all the train storage in the yard. And then we have some live aerials from not too long ago on the left, showing kind of where we're at. It's kind of hard to see what we're doing here. Let me skip over this. The guys on the teams can't see me, but this is basically where the wash building goes, EMF. And so we've started to excavate all that out. Storm drainage is in, And then on the right-hand side on the picture is the basement of the EMF. And so for a point of reference, on the right-hand side, you can see the train of where it is today, and it's kind of where existing grade was. And we've gone down now about 20 feet. So, yes, sir. Equipment. If anybody works at the airport or DART, love acronyms, so sorry if I say some acronyms. Equipment Maintenance Facility. So it's a 3-story building, a basement, a first floor, and then a mezzanine. And so right there where that drill rig is at is actually a picture from Friday. We're starting the foundations for the EMF building. Here's some renderings of what the building would look like. What you're staring at is the maintenance building, the EMF, and then the fuel pit on the left-hand side. Okay, so I wanted to get to know my audience here a little bit. Has anyone here done any work with alternative delivery, design build? Okay, quite a few, good. Anybody on the PPP, which is a private? Yeah, public-private partnership. Yeah, that one's kind of weird to me, but I've heard good and bad things. So anybody can raise a hand again. Good experience? Okay. Bad experience? Okay. Some people didn't want to answer, so I'm gonna just take those as bad. So let's talk about alternative delivery, right? So it's totally different. It's, well, not totally different, but different enough to me at least. Typical process, design, bid, build. You guys do the design, shoot it out, gets bids, comes back, lowest buyer comes back. Let's go build the job together. Design build is a lot more collaborative. At least there's a lot more opportunities to be collaborative, a lot more opportunities to work together or not work together, right? So a big part of that is building the right team. Finding individuals that have what I call unique talent of being able to visualize what you're building on paper and then see it happen before it happens. If you can find that person, that makes all the difference in the world. I've been able to work with someone, his name's Travis, right? So this guy can just see what it is on paper and just help our team kind of problem solve these things before the problems arrive. And that's a huge talent. It's really something that gets overlooked in my eyes. You can find those type of people. Like, that's, if you're trying to decide to do a design build or not, right? Get on the team. The more of those people you have, the more better the things are going to go streamless. And it's something that, I don't know, it's just a unique talent that I feel like I can do it, but just not as well as he can. But that's makes all the difference in the world. And really, when it comes key with all these complex projects where we're working like in Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, right? Those big design builds, maintenance of traffic is like the #1 issue. It's what's gonna really make or break your project. And so if you have that person that can visualize either on the consulting side or the construction side, things are just gonna go much easier. You're gonna find little improvements here and there that get you, there's tiny conflicts that you don't see from the beginning that you only see when you're out there. And obviously being proactive is always the best approach. And so that's just that unique talent that really means a lot to me. And then one thing that we did, right, Elaine, on Horseshoe, right? Innovative doesn't really mean fancy, right? Think of innovation, everyone's like, okay, AI and at the time Wi-Fi, right? That's innovative. But you can always find ways to be innovative, but not necessarily fancy. Let me give you 2 examples of that. So when we were doing the Horseshoe job, we actually found a way, because normal phasing, right, is demoable piece, build it, flop traffic, right? So what we were able to do was utilize existing bridges. So we kind of squeezed everyone down onto the existing infrastructure, demoed a piece of the existing, and then demoed a piece in the middle and put everyone back on to the existing I-30 bridges. And we're able to get a bigger chunk of the proposed. It made all the difference in the world. It gave us a bigger chunk to go after so that it cleaned up our phasing at the beginning. And that wasn't on the schematic. And I think that was just a part of the partnership of our team meeting and people just throwing stuff on the wall, see if it sticks. That's a great process, right? So again, just being innovative and really thinking outside the box, but not always just meaning, we want to use AI for everything, right? So, and then we did for CTV, yes, yeah. That's a contractor trying to save money, but yeah, of course. One big thing, I'm a big people person, and kind of the soft skills are really important. That we look at pieces of paper, we can't really read that from certain people, not until you get to like an interview and stuff like that. But for me, relationships and collaboration is a big part of it, right? Choosing the right partner. So before you get into a big opportunity like that for design build, right, you really have to know who you're going to be stepping in the room with, right? We have people that we like and enjoy outside of work, but whenever it's a work environment with pressure, right, liquidated damages, profits, all of that, you really have to know the people that you're about to work with for the next 3-4 years, especially in the high tense, high pressure environment, right? Because engineering and construction get on the same team, you're really working together like same company, right? On the design build. So making sure you're finding someone that's open-minded, right? And gonna listen to you, and then also that you're gonna be willing to listen to them. It's very underrated in terms of, oh, you got the old contracts. I've been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years. I'm not gonna change who I am. Then you have the engineers, this other side, well, that doesn't work. We need to do this because that's what the book says and X, Y, Z, right? You put those two in a room together, it's not gonna go very well, right? And it just creates a more tense environment, and it's just not beneficial to the project, right? Which is the most important part. And then picking I guess going back to picking the right partners, right? So, so one of the individuals I respect the most, his name was Jim Diston, Jim Diston for WSP, and so he was a joy to work with. He was kind of one of those people that could take that piece of paper and really visualize the work. But then also, I think where our relationship grew was we asked a lot out of him, and he always delivered, always, maybe most of the time, but for the most part, always delivered, right? But everything was always late, right? But our team understood that we put a lot of pressure on him, and we asked a lot of him, and last minute changes, and he took it like a champ. And so we had the same grace for him whenever we were asking for things, right? Hey, can we get this Tuesday? Yep, Tuesday came around, didn't get it, but it was like Wednesday afternoon. But you can be you don't have to be a jerk, right, to get what you want, but you also have to be able to willing to work with people to get it, right? And so there's a lot of push and pull. So again, it goes back to picking the right partners. So, and sometimes you don't have that opportunity until you work with them. You really know someone, right? It's kind of like a marriage. You date for so long and you think you really know the person, and then she farts in bed or something. I don't know, but just it's really key to find the right people to work with. And then the last one is the owner. Is the owner familiar with design build? Is the owner familiar with CMGC, PPP, the job order contracts? Are they familiar with it, right? I think that was one of our biggest challenges at the airport, was one, the procurement team wasn't super familiar with design build. So it was really kind of having to pull someone to the finish line with you, right? And then the other part, and then we'll get back into the end of it, is like understanding risk and what causes risk. So if the owner doesn't recognize that, right, it's just going to make everyone's job harder. So you have to be prepared for that. You have to be, at the ready to deal with those issues that maybe someone like TxDOT, who's been and done this for the last 20 years, kind of has it down. Word of the day, bona fide. Try to use it today in your life. and then remember me, I guess. But 2 bona fide ways to lower scope, right? So a show of hands, design to budget. How many people have seen that word in a contract or change or task order, right? Okay. If you haven't seen it, it's because you're not reading them all the way, okay? Um, design to budget. That the first time I saw that drove me crazy. Like, what the heck does that mean? Like design to budget. Like, it kind of is what it is for me, but I kind of understand what they're trying to get at. But at the end of the day, everyone has to understand there's only 2 bona fide ways to design to budget or to lower the cost of a project, right? It all goes down to scope and risk. That's it. You can try anything else, but it boils down to make substantial changes. We talk about scope and risk, right? So let's talk about scope a little bit. So for scope, obviously quantities, right? It's everything is quantity driven in construction. Reduce the quantity, the cost goes down, right? But that's not always so easy to do, right? You want 4 lanes, you need 4 lanes. You want 12-foot shoulders, you got to skinny things up, or it's kind of is what it is, right? So there are other opportunities. You can package projects. I mean, that's a little more challenging, right? But then you're not getting everything you asked for, okay? So that situation kind of makes them happy, but not all the way happy, right? But that's not what we're here to do. We're made here to make owners happy, right? Our clients happy. The other easy thing to do, right, is look at your specs, look at your aesthetics. That's the first thing, right? Nice building, architect comes out, you got glass everywhere. You got, I don't know, tinted glass, and then at the end of the day, it's just a sheeted building, right? So easy, kind of low-hanging fruit. And then value engineering, right? Certain people hate that word. There is, I feel like a good science to it of where or how you can value engineer, but even then you have to be very careful. I won't speak to them exactly, but we've had issues where we valued engineer something out and it bit us in the butt later, like hugely in a way. So we saved $80,000, $180,000, and then spent $2 million out of it because we didn't do it, right? Like especially like something like geotech is probably low hanging fruit, right? You think, oh, just we had geotech done 5 years ago. Let's just use that, and then you go out and it's nothing what you thought it was, and you're doing geotech real life, and that's slows things down, makes things more expensive. Um, and then understanding of scope. I think for progressive design builds and a CMGC, you have an opportunity to really get on the same page and understand the scope, read through the specs. I think that's something that gets overlooked, Um, like something that we came up the other day was stainless steel versus galvanized, right? Do you need marine grade stainless steel? Do you need 304 stainless steel, or do you need just galvanized, right? We're talking about protection of steel. Specs probably call out for the marine grade stainless steel, but you don't need it. That's where the true value engineering comes from, and a true opportunity to save money and to save costs. So again, that collaboration that you're able to do in design in alternative delivery is what allows you to do that. But you have to kind of pick your spots and know where to pick. And then one of my favorite topics is about lowering risk, and I'll get more into that because I think that's like, to me, that's the key of it. To really, that's where all the fat is in my mind of a cost of a project, right? And including design. Um, so this is more kind of geared towards progressive design build and CMGC, where again, let's go back to understanding of scope. So the first step to do is really get your team aligned, whether it's the independent cost estimators with the owners, right? And then with the contractors as well, making sure they're on the same page. You got to compare apples to apples as close as you can. It may be a green apple to a red apple, but hey, at least we're talking about the same piece of fruit that has the same characteristics. A lot of the times, excuse me, you're really comparing an apple to a jackfruit, right? Yes, they're fruit. Yes, you get a cost. Yes, there's sweetness to it, right? You get lines with numbers, but unless you're aligned on your WBSs, unless you're aligned on how you're taking your quantities off, right? How and then what your units of measure are, you're going to make life just that much harder on yourself. You're really not going to be able to get to the details of where the cost drivers are. And that's the whole point. Again, resolving the differences and the variances is the key to lowering the cost of the project, right? That's what the whole point of the process is. But unless you're not on the same page, you're not going to be able to do it. You're just going to be able to look at it. Electrical's 5 million and we have 7, right? Where's the difference? And you start looking at the details and you're like, man, I can't do anything with this. You know, and you're kind of more looking at it at a general scale. But if you have everything aligned, you're able to look line by line and look at the details. And those that work with me or around me, my favorite saying is the devil's in the details. You know, from everything when you're doing a renovation to your house, you know, or you're buying a car, right? The devil's always in those details of, you know, the car's been in 2-3 car accidents. Oh, that's why it's, you know, $10,000 cheaper than the normal Toyota, right? You know, doing something in your house, you go to knock out a piece of the wall that you're going to put a door in or a new window, and there's a pipe in behind the wall, right, to clean out for the sink. Now you got to do all that. The devil's always in the details, and it's always unhidden. It's always good to get on that same page, you know, when you're sitting down at the table, so that you can go into those details. Because if you're not aligned, you're not going to be able to. You're going to spend more than half the time just figuring out what to look at instead of, you know, the specific things you need to really look at to make an impact on the cost of the project. So my favorite thing about, you know, design build and kind of that alternative delivery is risk, right? That's one of my favorite things to figure out is where is the risk, and again, who, what, why, who, how, okay? So what is risk, right? These are potential issues that are going to come up during construction, right? And they're unknowns. The more of those you have is the why, is the contractors are going to price them out, at least a good one, right? Unknown waterline utility, all right, well, we're going to just price out that we're going to replace it. How do you know that's even in conflict, right? And so these are kind of the conversations that come up as you look at estimates, you know, together or like on CMGC and progressive design build that you kind of get to hash out. But for, you know, design bid build or design build, you're kind of just assuming that you have to do it, right? And design bid build is a little different because you can just change order up, but then that causes issues, right, with your clients, right? If you're ever on a job that has, you know, started at 50 million, you change ordered up all the way to 90, you're going to not look very good, right? So that's probably the biggest why of lowering risk, you know, is everything has a cost to it. And so the more unknowns, the higher the bids. So that's why design to budget, to me, going back to my favorite 3 words, it's all about the risk in terms of that's the only way you're going to lower the cost of the project without sacrificing your scope. And we talk about who handles that risk, right? And so in these alternative deliveries, it's actually shared, okay? So it's beneficial to the contractor whenever it's the engineer and the contractor, because you're able to really be proactive and identify the risk that's important to you or that you view is really high on your radar, and you're able to mitigate it or remove it altogether. You know, and that kind of makes the project go that much smoother. But again, anytime you remove a risk, that's kind of money back in their pocket. So as an engineer working with the contractor, that's how I think a good part of the collaboration goes, is you helping them remove the risk and then being on the same page of what to identify. And then an owner contractor, right? So we talk about this, progressive design build and CMGC, the sharing of risk. And I think I get into that a little later, but you talk about kind of walking hand in hand between the client and the owner, sharing the risk together and understand that that's out there. And we may not get there, but once we get to that bridge, we'll cross it together instead of, you know, nickel and diamond change orders here and there. So this is my wife's, a piece of it. She's probably upset that I put this in here, but this is a piece of her garden, okay? This is just one small piece. You know, she looks at it and she's like, oh man, I need to do this. And she really likes it. All I see is risk up here. It's really all I see. Just, the cost of the plants, right, goes up and down. The watering, too much water, too little water, plants die. We got to buy more plants. Geez, okay, edging, right? Making sure that all of it has edging. Um, when I did the edging, there was a bunch of tree stumps in the way. All right, now I got to put it in. So now I know, right? Lessons learned. There's tree stumps in the way. I have to remember where the fiber line is, because now, if we're doing the garden and I cut the fiber line, what are we gonna do? For from 10 to 11 every night, watching our favorite shows, right? From the weather, right? It's raining too much. It gets too hot, kills the plants. All right, we're back to killing the plants, buying more plants. The patio, we had it was crappy, a crappy wood patio. I was like, it's gonna be a day she's gonna wake up, she's not gonna want this anymore, right? Huge big risk. So we had to rip that out, right? Guess who got to do that? And then we had to hire someone to do the concrete. And then now this is the next risk that I'm hoping she doesn't, she's relaxing a little bit and we're gonna worry about the plants, furniture, right? So now we're gonna have to buy outdoor furniture, and then comes a gazebo, right? Because we got to protect the furniture. So all I see here is risk, and I actually asked her about, hey, what's risky, and she kept going talking about the fence. We need a new fence now, or painting the fence, putting plants in the right spot, killing plants again. She talked about prepping the soil. Too acidity kills the plants, or something like that, then doesn't bloom as much. So now she wants another one there. Plant spacing, being overcrowded. So it's just something so simple, right? This is a analogy, right, of a project. Some people look at it, oh, it's just a garden, it is what it is. And then some people just see, oh man, I just see a ton of problems. Oh, no. Well, we have a huge space, and she did mention that the other day, but luckily, I was able to talk her out of it. So, how the last key of the puzzle here is, how do we lower risk, right? Everyone talks about risk. We all understand it's a bad thing, right? But how do we do it, and how do we do it effectively? So, trigger words that really kind of Peter Griffin grind my gears, hope. I hope it's not there. I hope when we get there, the state fair is not happening at the same time, right? That should be fine. That could work, that should be. Yeah, I think so, right? Assuming, right? Oh, we assumed this wasn't gonna be like that. Like, those are huge trigger words, and should be trigger words to everyone here, that has a potential for something that doesn't go wrong, right? And again, a good contractor, right? It's the reason that they're not called builders. Not called builders, they're not called erectors, constructors, they're called contractors, right? Sorry, Desmond, putting you out there. But they're called contractors, right? Because they price out everything, at least a good one, right? They're gonna price out everything and put it in there. So when your client or your owner says, why is the cost of this project too high? Our independent cost estimate said 40 million, and the bids came out to 70. It's like, well, you got a little bit too much risk in there, right? And you got to start looking back at the hopes, the shoulds, and then your assumptions. Then one key thing for me to really hone in on are utilities, right? Everyone knows they're important. Everyone knows we have to get them all resolved. But I don't know, for some reason, it's kind of like one of those things that, oh, I think we can worry about it later. But, utility locates are key. SUE level A is like one of my most favorite words. And even more so because those typically drive the schedule, right? I'd be really remiss to have a project that says, oh yeah, the last thing we have to do is remove that water line, or right, relocate the water line. No, it's usually at the beginning. Yes, sir. Yes. Oh, my bad. Subsurface utility engineering, and the SUE level A, right, is potholing. So potholing, right, gives you eyes on what you're doing, right? We can have drawings and as-built, but anyone that's been around, contractors, especially utility contractors, for some reason, they're like, oh yeah, it tells us to put in the ground 4 feet and right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it right here. We're gonna put it 2 feet in the ground, right? Those are huge cost drivers and really schedule stoppers when it comes to the projects, right? And time is money when it comes to a contract. You have a whole team out there, right? And you're getting ready to build, and you have to stop. So those utility locates are just super key, right? We can't take a drawing, we can't take a drawing or an as-built, right? For full weight of gold, we really have to dial down and get actual locates as much as possible. And then the last thing is just remove as much uncertainty as you can, right? Again, it goes back to the hope, the should, the could, and then your assumptions. Again, that's where the cost is really driven in by a good contractor. They're able to put that cost in there and they do well with it, and then remove the risk later. But again, we're talking about design to budget. So stakeholders, again, first job, really babied, didn't have many stakeholders, only really worked with TxDOT. Second job, got to work with the Dallas Zoo, and really mandated our schedule on what we could and couldn't do. And then obviously business owners and property owners, right? They have a livelihood that we had to protect. But even then, still babied, went to the airport, and man, we even had a stakeholder coordinator. Is how big a position that was. And again, we go back to cost drivers and removing risk. Stakeholder is just one of the biggest things that we had to deal with at the airport, right? So example is American Airlines had like blackouts, but we weren't able to put that in the contract. But there were certain periods that we weren't able to work in, right? And so how does a contractor prepare for that? Can't really, but you have to price it out because you're not going to lose the money on it, right? Who pays for that? The owner, right? So working with your stakeholders and really setting the right parameters, setting the right constraints around the project really helps, right? You have that good level of expectation set. If you don't have a team that does well with talking to people and getting that information out of them, it's just not going to go right when you're actually ready to build something, or you're going to put something on a piece of paper that's not going to work, which has happened. You get this TCP ready, this maintenance traffic plan, and you go out there to build it, and then they first day of it going, we got to stop this, shut it down. All right, go back to the drawing board, right? Nobody wins in that situation. And so that's kind of like the stakeholder part of it. And there's also, technical parts of the stakeholder, right? That they wanted blue and you put it green or whatever, right? And so that was just a big key part that we had to do as a team. Whether we're talking about the IP ride design build or the Terminal F, it kind of just makes everything slow down. And so again, we're talking about design build. The clock's already started, right? At least on a design bid build, you're working through your design, and the clock for the contractors doesn't start until when they hit NTP. On the design build, there's all that much more pressure, right? Of working together and getting those stakeholders on the right team. They don't care about your time clock. So again, we'll go back to talking about working with people and all the added pressure of delivering it together at the same time. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is actually sharing risk between the contractor and the owner. Again, this is more progressive design build and CMGC. But I took a negotiation class a long time ago, and one of the lessons learned that I got from that was, playing poker, right? Especially, use this in your everyday lives, right? You're trying to buy something from someone, or you're going to build something for someone, and you really don't want to, I don't know, stamp the concrete, right? And you're going to put that into your bid, and something you don't really want to do, or you're going to have to hire someone else to come do it for you, and that's going to be an added cost to you and more trouble. So you're going to throw that. It costs you $500, so you're going to put $1,000 just in case something goes wrong, right? And then you go to your client, and they're like, whoa, why is this $10,000? I thought it was going to be half that. If you're able to play less poker and really show your cards, something that's important to you may not be important to them. right? And you think it's important to them, but it's not, right? They look at it, hey, stamped concrete, what is that? Well, I wanted to make it look like the tile, all that stuff. I don't really care about that. How much does that cost me? Well, it's costing you $2,000. Take that out. Easy win for everyone, right? Less hassle for you, and they just saved $2,000 on something they thought they wanted, but at the end of the day didn't really want. Um, and so I think that's a big key of, again, showing your cards. I know people don't like to do that naturally, right? We want to keep things close to our chest, but if we're able to collaborate in that way of show your cards, right? What's important to you? What are the things that you do want out of this? What are the things that you can bend on? And then again, getting that collaboration up between the contractor and the owner makes all the difference in the world. And again, we're identifying cost drivers. We're identifying things that where we can save money. Um, and allowances. So allowances is another way to do that, right? So one specific example, right? On the Silverline project that we're on, I can't remember the number. It's like $1.8 million that our contractor had in their proposal for flagging. So that was an unknown. Again, we go back to stakeholder management. It wasn't really known how many flaggers we needed and for how long. And so again, they're going to be conservative, right? So they put in $1.8 million worth of flagging. Once we did our CMGC and we're kind of comparing our notes, comparing our cards, we realized, hey, what's this cost right here? It's like, oh, that's flagging. It's going to take us 2-3 guys. Like, hold on, let's take a step back. Called someone, got a group meeting. You guys are only going to need 1 or 2, right? We were able to narrow down the cost of the flagging, and even then, I think it was actually Stacy's idea. It was like, just turn that into allowance, right? We'll be as wise as we can with the money, but if we don't spend it all, that's not money we need. It's not money in our pocket, right? It's more on the flagging firm. So let's put in an allowance, and we get there, we get there, we don't. But any money that we don't get there, right, there's the carrot on the owner's side to really limit the flagging and the needs for it. And it goes money back to DART. So that was a really good way for us to make one off the top. We put the allowance at 800,000. We saved $1 million by just having a conversation, right? And then we're probably going to save more money now because we're turning it into an allowance, right? And so we have this now bucket that we're only going to use probably about half. So that was an opportunity instead of just, accepting a bid. So hopefully there's no questions, but if you guys have questions, go ahead. All right, thank you.